Okay. Hello, people of YouTube land and those that follow Ted and I on Twitch and those that follow the Cringe Crew Gaming community Discord. As you can tell, this is another Thursday, and we are doing the Cringe Crew Gaming James Bond review podcast. I am Traductus.
And I'm Ted.
And we are reviewing the last Daniel Craig Bond film, and as of recording of this episode, the last James Bond film, although it is reported that they are continuing. Mainly because the ending credits of this actually said James Bond will return. So, that being said, No Time to Die, made in 2021. Released in 2021. This being the 25th out of the official James Bond series. This is the 28th film that we reviewed because we did the unofficial ones. That being said, this movie was supposed to come out a lot earlier. I think actually like in 2020 or maybe even 2019, but COVID hit. And
Thanks,
making this the second longest gap between Bond films, number one being License to Kill to GoldenEye, but this one was shy a couple months between Spectre and No Time to Die. This is directed by Kari Joji Fukunaga, who is known for directing the 2009 film Sin Nombre and the 2011 adaptation of Jane Eyre. Also, he directed and executive produced the first season of the HBO series True Detective, and also directed the 2015 war drama Beasts of No Nation, and co-wrote the 2017 adaptation of Stephen King's It. So we got someone that has, like, some power behind all that he's directed. Not that we haven't had that before. Like, what was it? Sam Mendes directed American Beauty.
Yeah, guy's got chops. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So obviously we kind of gotten away with like people that, I guess I wouldn't say people that haven't directed things that aren't really that well known, but like more stuff that with us familiar to like a modern audience.
Absolutely. I mean, It and True Detective are both really, really well done pieces of film. So, I mean,
I agree.
Having directed or written for both of those puts him much higher up than some of the other directors, at least for a modern audience.
Oh shit, I just noticed that the person that did the music was Hans Zimmer, who also worked on The Lion King, Gladiator, Last Samurai, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dark Knight Trilogy, Inception, and also Dune.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably should have paid attention to see when he took over, if he has been doing this for like the past few movies, or is it just this one? But anyway, going to budget, $250 to $301 million, making this the another film that's in range. Starting with, apparently I look back, Casino Royale wasn't in a range ever since from Quantum of Solace to now. They just been like a range budget, but the box office was $774.2 million. Making this, I believe, the second highest grossing Bond film of all time, and was the fourth highest grossing film of 2021. This film was also the third consecutive Bond film to win Best Original Song. The other two being Skyfall and Spectre. Of course, I said, third consecutive. So obviously these are getting back to Academy Award winning movie territory. along with the likes of Moonraker.
Motherfucker.
Uh, anyway, as for how Kerry Joji Fukunaga got the become director, they originally asked Sam Mendes, but he said he wasn't going to return after Spectre. People that were rolled out were Christopher Nolan himself, Dan Demanagi, Z, and also Dennis Villeneuve, who decided not to direct this, but direct Dune instead. They finally got to Danny Boyle, who directed movies like Slumdog Millionaire, Steve Jobs, 172 Hours, and Trainspotting 1 and 2. He ended up having problems with it was like a dispute over the script, and he left, and they ended up bringing Fukunaga on because while they were looking for a director for Spectre, this is before Mendes decided to come back and direct that. Fukunaga actually suggested that he would like to direct a Bond film in the future, so he got his chance. That being said, I think we're gonna go with casting. Daniel Craig again as James Bond, obviously. There was actually people were shocked that he came back for this film, especially since immediately after Spectre's release, he actually said he would rather slash his wrists than play Bond again, due to pretty much every single Bond film that he was in, he would get injured during filming. I didn't mention this the last time, but he broke his knee in Spectre, and also managed to break Batista's nose in Spectre, which he thought Batista was going to kick the shit out of him, but Batista said, it's all right, and just, did what most professional wrestlers do when they get injured. They just knock it back in place. But they basically did manage to give Daniel Craig the script, and he actually said, all right, this will be the last one that I do. They were actually gonna talk him into doing 2 more movies, but no, he's doing 1 more. So, this is probably why this ends up ending the way it does. Amongst other, shall we say, other things that happened the last film, but obviously, what sold Daniel Craig on this is that it tied loose ends. Another person that obviously comes back is Leah Seydoux, Madeline Swan, Ben Winshaw as Q, Ralph Fiennes as Gareth Mallory. We got Jeffrey White back as Felix Slider, with this being the only time where someone not only portrays Felix Slider 3 times, but 3 times in a row. So, therefore, we got a new record. If they bring Felix Slider back when they do a hard reboot, and it's going to be a hard reboot, spoilers. So I'm pretty sure we would probably talk about that with maybe the follow up, the overall episode. I mean, not tomorrow, but next episode, or maybe near the end of this one.
Probably its own separate episode. I think that one's gonna get long.
Yeah. All right. So there's that. Also Naomi Hoas as Eve Moneypenny. And oddly enough, it was reported that Christoph Waltz was not going to return as Ernst Stavro Blofeld. And no one knew that he was actually going to return until the movie's trailer. So, well done on misdirecting the crowd on that. So, that's nice that he comes back for newer people. We have for the main Bond villain, Rami Malek as Lucifer Safin, who has a revenge mission against Spectre, but ends up becoming Bond's Adversary, because he basically turns into Hugo Drax. Instead of being Space Hitler, he's nanobot poison gardening Hitler, and tries killing people with nanobots. Due to basically, I guess, whoever he seems as like a bad person, which apparently ends up being like 2/3 of the world's population. So, whew, really kind of shows like, one person definitely should not be judged on like,
Dominique tapping on something.
yes, my desk. uh yeah, should not be judged should be like, judge, jury, executioner for the entire world if 2/3 of the world population is going to like, die within the process. um for those that don't know, Rami Malek, he plays Freddie Mercury in the Queen biopic. Um, he's also known for his tenure in the series Mr. Robot. And let's see if there's anything like completely new. Oh no, Time to Die is the latest thing that he's done, besides like a couple post-production stuff. But yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody, Mr. Robot. Um, Apparently he was also in Spike Lee's Old Boy. Wow. Um, but that being said, like, someone that's definitely kind of like I wouldn't say up and coming actor, but ever since the Freddie Mercury biopic, he's gotten like quite a bit of traction. Um, so which I kind of see with like a lot of as a trend on some of the casting with this film, especially like Ana de Armas, who plays Paloma, who is a CIA agent that's assisting Bond, and Felix Slider. Um, she has been kind of on like a uh, role for getting like decent roles ever since she was in the movie Knock Knock with um, Keanu Reeves, but also is known for her role as Joy in Blade Runner 2049. Um, and I thought there was like another there was a TV series that she was. Oh, and she was also in the comedy crime film War Dogs. So there's a few things that she's kind of like been in like bigger movies, and with this role here, uh, she ends up getting actually a lot more roles that it seems like after this she's kind of doing like 3 or 4 like different projects from this. Actually, like Deepwater and The Gray Man, uh, like right in like this year, with like 2 other movies that are coming out that are post production. We also have Billy Magnuson as Logan Ash, who is a CIA agent who ends up double crossing Felix Leiter and Bond, and working for Safin. He's been in television roles within like Get Shorty, Maniac, and was also plays Polly Walnuts Galtieri in the movie The Many States of Newark, which was released around the same time as No Time to Die. So again, like another person that's like, kind of getting like a lot more, roles within like popular culture, like in big roles. Um, And to top it all off, we have Latasha Lynch as Naomi, who ends up being, she is, after Bond's retirement, is the, new 007. Latasha Lynch is known for her role in as Maria Rambeau in the movies Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange. Um, She has also starred as Arjana Pike in 6 episodes of Bulletproof, which again seems to be like more mainstream roles. Not really after No Time to Die, but it seems like, No Time to Die seems to be like, after Captain Marvel, or like everybody seems to like be in like this one big movie, and then after like No Time to Die has definitely seemed like a cascade of more. Um, so I have to say that's a really interesting trend, and I honestly think like the cast all did a pretty damn good job. Oh, and I also have to add, they for like one of the henchmen, the one with the bionic eye, whose name is Primo, which okay for that name of a character, but he is played by uh Muay Thai martial artist champion Dali Bensala. So again, we are getting uh along with the trend of like uh martial artists and like fighters playing uh Bond henchman roles,
Yeah, a couple in a row now.
which we kind of seen like at the beginning where, with Harold Sakata as Odd Job, and it's kind of funny how that kind of goes a little bit full swing near like the end of the series. Well, the end so far. But that's basically what I have so far with like casting. Also, um, background on how this movie ended up getting made. Finding directors. Oddly enough, I have to say this movie was the script was made, before COVID, and then them acting like the nanobots are pretty much a virus is very eerie.
It is kind of
Um,
bizarre.
and it's like, is James Bond predicting the future? I hope not. Um, but another thing that I also noticed that they kind of really did in this was they said that they threw in Easter eggs of every single Bond film thrown into this. And we'll get into like likes and dislikes about whether my feelings upon like said Easter eggs.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool that they, like, I, okay, two things before we move on too far. First off, you're averaging more than one every 6 seconds. We're fucking going out with a bang. Second,
And I was going to try to do this, be the one without any uhs, and then I did an then I'm like, fuck it. I'm not even going to pay attention.
I don't even think you were through your first sentence. But no, I like the homage to some of the other movies was like it was weird because some of them were like really, really, really blatant. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's the exact same boat from the exact same camera angle that they used before. Some of them were much more subtle, and it was that like we were looking for them, not that they were blatantly obvious.
Right.
And I guess I started to question whether or not that was like on purpose. Like the director's like, hey, these were really good movies and things that people will recognize, and these they existed, and we're gonna move along. Like it was
Right.
tough to tell.
I would say that some of the Easter eggs were really like cool, like seeing like the Timothy Dalton era, Aston Martin after the Goldfinger era gets destroyed. At least the Timothy Dalton one stays intact.
Yeah.
Yay. The one Aston Martin that doesn't get destroyed in these movies. Other ones I would say are a little bit distracting. My one thing, oh crap. I can't remember what it was. Oh, all right. Spoiler alert. The character Ash dot is was that right? Ash. Shit. Yeah, Logan Ash. When he dies, it's basically homage to 2 Bond films essentially, which is one being obviously License to Kill, where he's getting revenge on Felix Slider because Logan Ash actually kills Felix Slider in this. Spoiler alert. Which I don't know how I feel about Felix Slider dying in this movie, and that's not like a like or dislike. That's just going to be like kind of like a middle thing. I'll get to it when we get to it. But like it's also kind of like a homage to Loke's death in For Your Eyes Only, with like, instead of like, Bond kicking him off like a cliff inside of a car, he actually just kicks the car on top of him. Uh there's like little things like that that kind of become a little distracting. It's like, oh yeah, it's like a homage to that, and then you're just like, it, it feels like that should add to it, but at the same time, sometimes when it gets a little too distracting, it takes away with what's going on. Especially after you see enough of Easter eggs, you try to look for every single goddamn Easter egg out there.
And you're not even sure it is one anymore if you're, creating stretches that weren't on purpose. I noticed we
Right.
did that a few times, but
Although the biggest blatant one, although I didn't notice it until I really started paying attention, Bond and M are like talking about like the nanobot super weapon, and then you hear on Her Majesty's Secret Service's theme music playing, which there's a lot of homage to that movie in this goddamn movie, and there's a reason why, but at the same time, like uh um they do it enough times where it becomes kind of distracting. So that's a little gripe I have with this. Um, I guess we'll start with dislikes right off the
I
bat.
we might as well. I think we're already kind of in that spot.
Yeah,
Um, the big one that stuck out to me was that there were more jumpy action sequences. This one I equated not to like jump cuts, but more like the direction had ADHD, where they're jumping back and forth between different fights, between different scenes, different camera angles, different characters. Like everything just. I guess that they were trying to point out that everything was happening in unison, but it just made it where you weren't following what was happening in what conflict, and it was very very jumpy and jittery, and I don't want to say that it was hard to follow necessarily, but it definitely didn't make it easy to comprehend.
yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think like when sometimes the action scenes, although I would say not as bad as the last one for like destroying our sense of disbelief or other previous Bond films, but like there are a few things that it is a little egregious in this movie when it comes to suspense of disbelief.
Yeah,
Uh,
the one notable place I have that is the marksmanship. Like
yes.
use of guns in this movie. Like, first off, let me applaud them because every single time there was a weapon featured, they counted. I loved it.
We'll
Loved
go
it.
with likes because
Yeah,
we'll go with
that's good.
likes because I have to add on to that.
Love it. We'll come back to that, but there were plenty of like shots that just there's not a snowball's chance in hell. There was like sequences in which what's her name, the new 007, she gets caught on the balcony after Bond steals the scientist, and like she just pulls out the gun from across her body, whips it into a lamppost before any of the cops aiming at her have any action. Like the marksmanship and the use of weapons was very they use them very liberally, I guess, and some of the
Especially
disbelief
Bond
was.
taking a grenade to the chest and surviving.
Yeah, that was at his feet, and as we're watching, it was like, well, maybe it was a flashbang. It's like, okay, he's still disoriented. That's not like he loses his hearing for a quarter of a second and then he's fine to go kick ass again. Like that's not how that works. Like there are moments in this film that like just definitely the disbelief is just a little outlandish. But so be it. Um,
Yeah.
my big complaint for this movie is the plot being so convoluted. I thought
Yeah.
I thought that the plot was good. Like the meat and the substance of it was good. I think they added way too many twists and turns, especially to the beginning of the plot, that made it really just
Yeah.
goofy.
I mean, I was confused because I know that she says, Swan, she goes, "Yeah, I have like a secret." And then you're just like, okay, what is it? And then later on, she's talking about like Safin and stuff, but for how confusing it is, I wonder, since we do find out that, like Madeline's kid is Bond's kid, I wonder if the secret initially was that it was um that she was pregnant, and the Safin stuff just ended up becoming like the secret that she had because like he came back into her life. But you never know because like nobody is like 100% telling the truth to anyone.
Yeah, well,
So
so there was all of that, like her involvement in all of that, the kid, her secrets, whatever. Like all of that's confusing enough, but I think that's more just kind of thrown in. My big stick was the scientist, right? That like
oh yeah.
he's anti-Spectre and working for this rogue agent, but then it turns out that the rogue agent was working for Safin, but Safin's plot was not necessarily to kill Spectre or Bond, and then how they became involved with each other, and it just, like, they added way too many twists and turns into the same thing. Like, it would have been so much easier to use the same plot and just been like, yep, he was also a member of Spectre, and he figured killing half the planet would be bad, and this is how he planned to do it with the MI6's own weapon. You know what I mean? Like, even that would have been like easier to follow along. There were just so many twists and turns in the exposition of this whole thing that like really just devalued the positives that this plot had.
And on top of that, like, there's some continuity issues between this one and the previous one. Yeah, next one. Of course, there's continuity issues. Um, um, well, the previous one, they kind of implied the person that shows up at Madeline Swan's house is Blofeld, but in this movie, it's revealed to be Safin. Which, by the way, if Safin's supposed to be like a teenager in the title sequence, way to like reuse Rami Malek and making it completely obvious that it's obviously an adult human being. Either that or else Safin's aged very fucking well.
Well, there's that. I also think that like they never really give you a clear explanation as to why Safin was trying to kill Madeline Swan's father anyway.
Yeah, he killed his family.
Well, like it just like they never made it cohesive, right? Like they brought it up and that he killed his family, but like how does he know? Why is he out for revenge? Like this, that, and the other. How many years was Mr. White alive that like he didn't kill him anyway? Like it just none of it really lines up. They really added so many twists and turns to this plot that just absolutely didn't need to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And especially, like, you got confused about how, like, the nanobots end up working. It's like, well, it's like, so it kills the person's DNA and then it kills their family's DNA. I'm like, yes.
No, you know what I did there?
If they're programmed to do that.
What I did there, I rubber ducked myself at the end of the movie as we were done watching because I started to talk it out. I was like, oh, I'm a fucking moron. What I did was that Bond and Blofeld were brothers. Like, forgetting the fact that Bond was adopted in. So what I did as I was complaining about that, I was like, they're brothers. They should already be dead. What the hell? Like, he's already killed his kid. But no, they're adopted brothers. That was, I rubber ducked myself.
But even then, like, only specific ones target specific things. If they're programmed, they explain it, but at the same time, it's just like, okay, then what sort of, like, poison does he have? Does he have the one that just affects this one particular person, or does he have the one that affects the entire, gene pool? And there's that. There's also some sort of like writing that I have like issues with, like the doctor. Oh, I forgot, Dr. Valdo Orbachev, who's the rogue scientist played by David Denick, who plays Mikhail Gorbachev in the series Chernobyl. Like, when his character and like Nomi face off, like she's like dragging him along and stuff. Like, I don't know if he's trying to convince her. He's doing a piss poor job convincing her not to kill him.
Well, and he
especially
just
when he
out of place the whole damn time.
He just starts rambling like really like genocidal racist shit. Like I could, like wipe out your entire race, as that's supposed to, like, you know, have her not kill you. And obviously she does the typical thing that any human would do. Chucks him off a freaking balcony.
Well, and all of that too, like
to his death.
the only purpose that he served in this whole movie was to steal the weapon originally. Like the moment they had the weapon, they could have killed him off. And like he added no extra value, he added extra twists and turns. It just wasn't.
I mean, for fuck's sake, they killed off the dude that that was part of that British TV series.
They killed Hugh Dennis. That was my next dislike. Yes. They killed Hugh Dennis. They brought in Hugh Dennis for this movie. They gave him half a fucking speaking line, and then they shot him in the brain. I was very upset. I love Hugh Dennis. I love Hugh Dennis.
Which comes to Felix Slider, all right? I really love Jeffrey Wright's Felix Slider. And my issue isn't that Felix Slider dies in this. Spoiler alert, James Bond also dies in this at the very end. And to me, it's like, if you're going to kill off James Bond, it seems a little overkill and kind of out of place to really, like, kill him. It's almost kind of like a favorite movie character in a series that you follow, and then and then they end up dying for, like, dramatic effect, but, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of like, did they really have to kill off that character?
Yeah.
Like, does it do anything for the story?
I think so, but I'll get to that in likes.
Right.
I partially agree with you though about Felix Leiter's death in that I guess it felt kind of unnecessary, but at the same time it motivated Bond to do something bigger than just save the planet for the hell of it. Like it gave him purpose.
It's a minor gripe. It's not like a big issue that I have. And to be honest, the biggest issue that I kind of have with this is that this movie kind of relies on, you know, the previous, because these are all very connected thanks to Spectre. But without, like, Spectre, you're probably going to be sort of lost with this one.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think most of the getting lost is just the way that this film was put together, more so than it relying on Spectre, though. Like to some extent, I feel like like seeing Spectre does give some background that creates some assistance, but I also like I also know that the primary point of confusion for this movie was that this movie was written the way it was. But
yeah, that makes sense. But I don't really have a lot of dislikes with this. Like,
no, I don't either. That about sums up what I had. It was, you know, the plot, the ADHD action sequences, and fucking Hugh Dennis, man. How do they do that to my boy Hugh Dennis?
Can we go with
Yeah, we'll go with likes. I'm gonna pick up at the point with Bond dying, just because I feel like that's a smooth mix. So, in the 20 movies that existed pre-Daniel Craig, every movie could have been an independent movie. There was no real series element to it. You could have watched any one of those movies and it could have been an independent film without any background of any of the other ones.
Some of the Connery ones, maybe. But
even if there was continuity between them, you didn't need the previous ones.
Right.
This one, like with Daniel Craig, they very clearly gave it a hard reboot. They gave introductions to every character, even the ones that had been around literally since the beginning, like M or Moneypenny. Like there was, you know, they reintroduced every single character again. They gave an entire backstory. They gave character development, even from movie to movie. Like the way that characters developed was really important. If you go back to Casino Royale, Bond was never like interested in save the world. In Casino Royale, it was a very selfish plot to I'm winning this poker game to fuck that guy over, right? Then, you know, like the love of his life dies. He goes on is evil. So now he's on a murderous rampage. He's still selfish. He has to grow and develop. Like the way that the things that's been on my likes for 4 movies now is the way that the character continues to develop throughout the movie. They're not just making it independent.
And before this is the spoiler rankings, because I'm not saying if it's you know, the best or you know, not the best Bond movie out of all the franchise. Right now, I want to say that for the rankings, but I will say this: I do think this is probably Daniel Craig's best portrayal of James Bond.
Well, and that's just it, right? Is that like because they've created their own separate reboot, they've created their own not franchise necessarily, but their own subsection that this exists outside of everything else, and all of these are reliant on each other. It's its own little universe, right?
Right.
Like I think it really, really wraps up that Bond portrayal as a whole for him to die at the
Yes.
end
Yes, it does. Yes,
because
it does.
well, because he's doing something completely non-selfish. He's giving up on the idea of family because he's saved the world first. There is every opportunity to not go in and fight the villain or like to save the world just to be with his family and be selfish. But I think 5 movies of development really led it to the point that like him dying for a greater good like is the final piece of the arc to his whole character development. And genuinely, like, I really appreciate the way that arcs from beginning to end, and you can clearly see all of the markings and pathways he gets to go from where you started in Casino Royale to his death at the end.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I think it's definitely a really, really good arc, and um I kind of wish that they would have done that earlier. I mean, they kind of sort of started half-ass doing that with Brosnan's, but like they after by the third movie they uh well, at least third or fourth movie. I'm not sure if they kind of throw it out the window, so to speak. Uh
And I feel like Brosnan's picks up from a difficult point too, because even then, like, his first movie was not let's establish the character, let's give a baseline to grow. It was just
right.
another iteration of another Bond movie. Like he got a tough place to start to create that arc.
Yes. But I think for me, when you're talking about like how like the arc and everything, I have to say that this movie specifically pays a lot of attention to detail, whether it's counting bullets or like how the uh poison ends up spreading, how it Safin gives like a lace perfume to Madeline Swan. Madeline Swan sprays it on herself. She ends up touching Bond on accident, and then Bond, in a rage due to Blofeld, taunting him and harassing him, strangles Blofeld, and then accidentally kills Blofeld by giving him the virus.
Yeah,
And the fact that how it's done so subtly that it just makes you just kind of think like, because like you missed
I
that,
did.
right?
I 100% did. It was
And
just
it's
such
just
subtle small details. Like it forces you to pay attention, but also there's such a craft in those small details that like, you know, make the plot feel thorough and complete.
and there's just little details like that. Um, an- Another thing that I really like, that there's a lot of elements from like the Bond novel, specifically "You Only Live Twice" in this, which is the second to last Bond novel. Uh, Not including like Octopus in the Living Daylights with like the short story collection, but this is the last one in the Blofeld trilogy. They have the Poison Garden that I complained about that wasn't in the movie You Only Live Twice. They actually have that uh in this movie. On top of that, they actually even took like a line from that where Bond is killing Blofeld. He says, "Die, Blofeld, die," which I think is corny in a movie sense, but it's kind of cool that they, actually take things from like the books and like, hey, what haven't we done that's in the books that we've done movies previously that we can throw in here?
Yeah, and they
And
gave a shit to craft it that way. Like it wasn't just write our own movie as its own movie. It was write it to like pay respect to the entirety of Bond's universe, whether it be books, movies, whatever else.
and since we are on likes, when we get to talking about like Easter eggs again, I love how despite the distraction of on Her Majesty's Secret Service, I like how like they sort of tease you that Madeline Swan's going to be the one killed, because like when first going into this movie, if I didn't say anything, the first thing that everybody was thinking that she was going to get Tracy'd.
Yeah.
Like right away. Doesn't happen. Bond ends up leaving her because he thinks that she betrayed him. And then throughout this entire thing, you think it's going to be her. She's the one that's going to, die. But they flip it as it's Bond is the one that's going to die. And then they also flip that last line of all the time in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was good.
Still a gut puncher.
Yeah.
Like, ugh. Ugh. But
into some smaller things, this movie had a really, really, really good comedic mix.
Yes.
I feel like we've been missing that a bit in the last few movies. That I guess things were just more serious, more tense, whatever. And while there were like one-line quips, like they didn't do a really good job integrating the comedy. And in this one, like there were genuinely moments that were truly funny, and it blended really well in both in context with the movie and the quality of humor they were creating,
especially between the two 007s.
Yeah,
like when Bond gets a 00 number
I'm
again.
Sorry,
it's
what
like
number is he?
Like just 00 who? 00 what? And I love how like they one up each other, kind of like in Tomorrow Never Dies with Bond and Wei Lin, how they kind of like one up each other while competing, working with each other. Also, Q, bright as ever, which I have to actually give props to this movie, because they actually do reveal that Q is gay in this, but they do it in a way where it's just normal. It's not like, hey, look, we made Q gay. We are inclusive. We are, the coexist sticker.
Yeah.
And that really annoys me when movies like really like I don't want to say shove it down your throat, because that just makes it seem
no, they don't overindulge it is I think what you're aiming for. That like they don't
make a big deal out of it, and it just seems fake, like it comes off as like, yeah, we check these boxes off with like, diversity and all that stuff, and we're gonna showcase it as in that's the character, they're this check mark, as opposed to like, hey, we're gonna have this character and they just so happen to be gay or black or a woman. Like, it's just normal how it should be. And to me, I think that's real progress.
It only took them fucking 60 years, but they got there. God damn it. One other thing that I have to point out for this movie, in terms of that like normalcy and all that, is they really did a good job at making this movie feel unique.
Yes.
Especially like, all right, so the transition in my ADHD brain there was that like, we're moving on. I don't need to explain that. That'll take too long. My point is though that like in this movie there was a whole lot of like plot lines and villain uses, and I get there was just a lot of things that I haven't seen in other movies before. That it's not right. In so many other of these Bond movies, I've seen things that have either become tropes because of Bond or Bond is using the same trope. But in this one, like, there's not often that you see a villain stealing something from the government to use it against the people. If you do, it's some giant big-ass gun or tank or plane or whatever that is very clearly capable of destruction. And in this one, like, not only do they have said, doomsday device, but, like, there is a purpose for them using it for good, which I think is, like, unforeseen. I think the idea of like using genetics as a biological weapon and having that explanation is different than I've seen in other movies. It's not just, hey, we released, the Black Plague again, like right. They really do a good job at like, I've never seen a movie that uses these plot points that really sells itself this way. Like this was a very, very unique movie, and it didn't feel like just creating the same boring standardized tropes like fighting on top of a train. It was really its own movie, and it was a very drastic change from 27 previous iterations and just about every other movie I've seen in an action genre.
Yeah, that, and also in this movie, like Safin, he's very, very creepy in this, but like he's also himself also a very tragic figure and sees himself as doing good. And I hate to go back to Batman on here, and this
Yeah.
isn't like Bane or anything like that. I'm talking about the latest one, the Batman. So it's like we're getting it's like cycles. It's like Christopher Nolan influenced by Bond, Bond influenced by the Batman series. Now Batman influenced by Bond because the Batman came out with like the Riddler seeing himself as Batman within like the latest Batman movie. And he's just like, hey, we're one and the same. And this Safin sees him one and the same as Bond. He just sees himself as more efficient. So basically sees himself as a force of good, but obviously the road to hell is met with good intentions. And uh throughout this entire thing you see him as like, teeter that line of like being like a mass murdering awful human being to like somebody that actually has a conscience, because like he saves Madeline Swan from drowning after right after killing her mom, but like apparently he's just like, all right, I'll spare her life. And then when he captures Bond's daughter, obviously, threatens to kill her and everything, but when she like bites him and fights away, he just lets her go. He's just like, if you don't want my protection, then
Oh,
you're free to go. Like, I'm not
I
gonna
I think
stop
that
you.
was I think that was more he assumed she's gonna die anyway, and rather than getting himself bit, like I'll agree at the beginning where he protects Madeline from drowning, but I weird like it does bring up an interesting point in these movies though that like doesn't everyone see themselves as the good guy? If you watch an anti-hero movie, like they're the protagonist, right? They're fighting for their
Right.
own cause, whatever. Like as convoluted as it may seem, like all the world's leaders who have ever done wrong have believed that they were on the right side of things, doing things the
Yes.
right way. And it does bring up an interesting point that like, hey, the bad guy can have good intentions too. It just looks different than your good intentions. They had a pretty strong play on that, I think, especially the dialogue between Bond and Safin towards the end of the movie, where Safin's holding Bond's daughter hostage, but I think they do a really good job at playing on that, and just kind of opening your eyes to the whole series as what Bond meant for the goodness of humanity and whose perspective that comes from.
Right.
Along those same lines, I thought Rami Malek killed this role.
Yeah, and I don't know why the first time I watched it, maybe because the first time I watched it, I thought he was boring, and I think the reason why that is because despite me being excited for this film and despite me being like a James Bond fan, sometimes you're just not a fan of like, I mean, not in the mood to really watch movies.
Mhm.
And it just happened to like came out on streaming when I was able to like uh on one of those moods, but I'm like, I gotta watch it while it comes out. And I guess I probably was like kind of zoning in and out because Rami Malek killed it.
Admittedly, it's a very dry character. Like if you're watching at a
Yeah,
very surface level and not in depth, I would understand being bored with his character. He's not big and showy and flashy and loud and bold, and I mean he's none of those things, but it's a very in-depth, complex character with like very clear thoughts and intentions and motives, and like it's such a well-developed character, and he plays this role phenomenally. I've seen a handful of his things. I mean, he did really well in the Freddie Mercury film. Obviously, he killed this role. There are other things that I've thought that he was completely lackluster, just not a fantastic actor. But I mean, his two
right.
biggest roles, arguably in this and Bohemian Rhapsody, were he's acts the shit out of this movie. It is so
Yeah.
ridiculously spectacular. His role is fantastic. Of all of the portrayals of all of the characters through every single Bond movie now, I don't know that anyone can hold a candle to how well he played this role.
The closest ones I can think of are Silva, like Javier Bardem as Silva, and maybe Telly Savalas as Blofeld, but that's
And still, like I don't think it's fair to put them in the same category. I mean, I
right.
loved Silva's character. He acted very well. Don't get me wrong. I thought that was a fantastic performance, but I don't think it's
But
even fair to
it
put them in the
wasn't
same
it
category.
wasn't they were basically as menacing, but they didn't have that in depth.
Yeah, and acting
The
well.
only
Like
the
this
only
was a
person that
difficult
well,
character to pull off and performed
yeah,
flawlessly.
right. 006 had like the backstory, and then the thing was uh complex, but it was also rather rushed. While this was like really thought out.
And flush. I mean, it's this could not have been an easy role, but like executed to perfection. I'll
Well,
also say that like Rami Malek is such a good actor. I genuinely don't know what his natural accent is. Like I've seen him do
uh,
several of them
yeah,
now, and he's so good at
thought
all of
he
them.
was British, but apparently he's American.
They're
So
born in California. We had to look it up because, like, I do not know what his natural voice sounds like because he stays in character so well. Could not tell you if my life depended on it. No idea, but
yeah.
true that's the last thing on my list. But I would
Also,
be completely wrong.
Lashana Lynch as Nomi also did a really hell of a good job as well
Yeah,
in her role.
I think all the actors in this did pretty well, but I mean Rami Malek was so like I can't rave about it enough. So far above any other performance through the whole series.
Yeah, I agree, and it's gonna be rather keeping that in mind. Depending on what we do with like the wrap up on the next one, like if we decide to do categories of ranking, like top 5, bottom 5 Bond villains and stuff. This guy's gonna make the list, but it's gonna be tough for me to arrange that because there are ones that I personally like, but like for how good of a written Safin was and how good like Rami Malek like acted the role, especially for how complex the role is, like that's gonna be a tough one to, you know, surpass. Especially like in the next movie that comes out whenever. Like
Yeah, I mean, you have to hope that with a reboot that they write the character for the actor as well as they did Safin for Rami Malek. But
right.
I like that. This was such a good role, such a good role. You got anything else on your likes list?
Um let's see, I had the characters. Um no, I think I got it. I think
I was pretty all encompassing there, so
yeah.
sorry about it, but
No, it's all right. It's funny how like we start like when it comes to like the first movie, it's me talking throughout the entire thing, and you just going, "Yeah, this movie had things in it,"
yeah.
and then now it's like, boom, you're like, "This has this," and I'm just kind of like chiming in every now and
Yeah.
then, like, "Yeah, yeah."
Yeah, we
So
got there. We got there.
this is really cool how
Full
how we get
character
to
arc.
this.
Full character arc.
Gerard.
Yeah. All right. I think that brings us up to rankings. I'm still
Yeah.
thinking if you're ready, but I can cheese it if you need me to go first.
Oh, you can go first.
All right. This was man, Ted and Stallman tropes. Struggling to put it on a list. Okay. This one was tough for me because I have to like the concept of this movie, where it fit into the story, the like base elements of this plot, really, really, really good. Certain like the acting performances were great, and the completion of the story is really satisfying, but the execution of the way that the movie was written is not as good as the concept of the movie, and that makes this really,
Right.
really hard to place. I think I don't feel great about it, but I'm gonna put it at 6th.
Wow.
I think that's higher than it probably deserves to be, but there are so many good elements to this movie, and there are so many things that I want to like that I think it can outweigh the confusing elements of the plot. I mean, the confusing plot is really genuinely the only thorough dislike I have. Action movies are action movies, so I can't hold that too far against it. Hugh Dennis dying should not make where I put the ranking of this movie, but
Dead last.
Right? Yeah, they killed you, Dennis. Fuck them. No, but
below Casino Royale 67.
But like obviously, like, you know, the plot being confusing sucks, but the concept of the plot, the major plot points are still really good. That I feel like the good significantly outweighs the bad. That I have to put it pretty high.
Yeah.
I tried to buy you as much time as possible. I filibustered so long.
This is tough because, like,
Silence is good for podcasts, I heard.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm struggling because, like, the issues that you talked about of this movie, I had the same for Living Daylights, which is why I have it at 7. So I'm just thinking, like, do I like Living Daylights more, or do I like this one more? Ugh.
Well,
And what sucks about Timothy Dalton and Daniel Craig are phenomenal freaking actors and knocked it out of the park in both those roles too. The only reason why I am going with, and this sucks. You know why? Ted, I think I know where you go. I think you know where I'm going with this.
I might.
All right. There's only one reason why I have No Time to Die above Living Daylights.
Okay.
All right. Grenade launcher attachment trumps rocket launcher rocket inside of AK-47.
All right. I respect it. I respect it.
So at number 7 is No Time to Die, and that is the only reason, because I'm having such a hard time thinking which one, you know, is better, and I'm like, oh, there, I just pulled something out of the hat, and
well, nothing if not for consistency, right?
right.
But all right.
But overall, so next episode is our wrap-up episode. Still gotta kind of think about what exactly we're doing with that, right?
Yeah, our plans were to, you know, review our rankings as a whole list instead of, you know, we figured it was kind of hard to follow the full list of 28 movies if you don't watch all of these episodes, or, you know, keep your own list as you watch them. Like, we're not recapping the whole list every time, so, you know, reviewing our list 1 to 28. Maybe doing like a top 5, bottom 5 of, you know, well, Bonds, maybe not top 5, bottom 5, but, you know,
yeah,
like a ranking the Bonds, potentially doing top 5 or bottom 5 for music or villains or henchmen or all kinds of stuff. So we're going to put together a wrap-up episode just to, you know, kind of sum up bits and pieces that we've liked from each of these, and, you know, give this series a real banger to go out on.
Definitely on that. And also I think we'll definitely probably touch upon From Russia with Love and compare that to like a lot of other people's lists of how that's number 1 as well for like a lot of people. And that's like James Bond fans. And with you being a newbie, I think maybe like talking about that a little bit might be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll use this. We're gonna definitely put some more planning into the next week than letting that one be quite as scuffed as the last 28 of them have been. But yeah, we'll put together a pretty good episode just to, you know, give a nice bow tie on the
right,
our watching experience. I was looking through files today, actually. Do you know when we recorded the first one? It was like January 16th. We've been doing this shit for 7 fucking months.
Jesus.
I mean, like, it's a little longer than 28 weeks because we've been, like, we've missed a handful of weeks. They've come out in 28 straight weeks, but yeah, we recorded the first one in the middle of January. It's been 7 months.
So I have screwed up my stream schedule for 7 months.
Sure sounds that way.
All right. But that being said, we are looking for other franchises or I guess themes.
Yeah, we're not going to get any series that are nearly as long as James Bond.
Yeah.
So if there's series or franchises, even like a director with a reasonably sized, filmography that you'd like us to see, drop comments, message us in Discord, whatever the case is. Like, we've had so much fun doing this, which is part of the reason we're doing the wrap-up episode, not just as a bow tie,
Right.
but, also to squeeze one more week of content out of this. But, if there's something else that we can do, we've talked about Rocky. There's a couple of directors that have come up.
Like Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, we've tossed around very briefly the idea of Christopher Nolan, but his list of films might be a little long at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we could reasonably even work out ways to watch series of shows if they're, of TV shows. If we we watch a season in a couple of weeks time and do an episode that, it's still possible if there's something that you'd want us to review. So obviously, if there's something you'd like to see us do this with, butcher it and make scuffed content out of, let us know. Otherwise, Stallman, unless you got anything else.
The only thing I gotta say is that there's definitely going to be probably like a couple month break between this and before we do anything else.
Yeah, we're gonna need it. 7 months is a real long time.
Oh, but I didn't realize it was that. Wow,
I didn't either, but goddamn. Yeah, I don't even remember why I was in those files today, and I was like, holy shit, it says Dr. No, January 16th. But anyway, if you guys are interested in the content, both of us stream on Twitch, Stallman at Traductus and myself at Ted Green Eagles. You can check us out there. Obviously, hop in the Discord if you haven't done that. That'll be linked in the description. Catch a bunch of gamers, movie watching parties, community events. So we played Pummel Party this past weekend at time of recording. So if you're interested in hanging out and doing a whole bunch of gaming stuff, as well as, other entertainment like movies and music, be sure to check out the rest of the YouTube, the Discord, catch us on Twitch. And otherwise, I think that'll do it. And we'll see you next week for the wrap up.
Yep. See ya.